I'm curious to hear, when was the last time something came as a big surprise that forced you or your business to change or adapt to something? I think maybe, during COVID, we all had this experience that a lot of things changed from norms, social norms, to where we could go, who we could see, how we worked. Of course, there's new regulation or new technology like AI and LLMs coming in and changing how we see things. But I think the real question is, could we have anticipated any of these things, or could you have anticipated the last surprise that came and maybe shook your business up a bit? That's part of the work I'm doing with Anticipate, which is my strategic foresight agency. We work to help kind of give businesses a better idea of the signals out there and how to kind of react and respond and build resilience. Because the problem is that a lot of people and a lot of organizations, they look to the past to plan for the future. And that's a bit like looking in the rearview mirror when you're driving ahead, right? You only look to the past and like, oh yeah, we look at the data and the past models and so on, right? But we live in uncertain times. I don't have to go on a long explanation about that. It's not just easy to just say, oh yeah, it's going to happen. The same thing is going to happen next year as 5 years ago, right? So that's why we need to look at things from multiple different horizons. Just by looking at the future, and that's what foresight is in general, is kind of a structured way of thinking and working with the future to better prepare in the present. It doesn't mean that you should just focus on the far future, like 10, 20 years from now as a business. It actually has impact on what you're doing right now as well, your core business as well. So you need to find the right balance between working on the core, being better at what you're good at, looking for emerging opportunities, innovation, but also having the eye to the longer-term future, like the signals out there that indicate that something is changing. So I would give you an advice, and it's an easy example because it went pretty badly for Blockbuster, but don't be like Blockbuster, who saw Netflix, they observed them, but they also like kind of disregarded them. That okay, they're not even on the radar screen; they're doing something else. We are really we're caught up in our own business. We have a lot of sunk cost invested, so we can't innovate and do new things. And that's what caused them to go bankrupt back in the day. And maybe Netflix actually now has to look up and not be another Blockbuster, because now the streaming war is on. So there's a lot of things happening there. But this is also relevant for smaller companies, not just for the big Fortune 500 companies. So at the exact same time, I think, as the �Modstandsdygtige resilience project happened, when I was working at the Copenhagen Institute for Future Studies, which Matt has also been a part of previously, we got funding to do SME Navigator. And this was before ChatGPT, so the name was something we came up with ourselves, actually. And this project was meant to kind of give small companies, the startups a bit, but maybe more small, medium-sized companies, which there are many of in Denmark, the tools to work with the future, do some horizon scanning, look out what's happening, but also do strategy. So we had some good partners in Halfspace and Beacon, and again, some good advice from Danske Erhverv, SME Denmark, and funding from Industriens Fund, of course. So what the project consisted of was kind of twofold. We had the AI-driven trend scanner, so kind of a news crawler that was a way to collect futures insights, so insights about what is happening within different themes. And then we had a strategy process. So how would we translate those insights into action for the companies that were part of the process? The tool, the Horizon Scanner, there are several of those out there, but we developed our own model based on the kind of taxonomy that we found relevant, the key themes and trends that we saw were relevant. So the first thing we did was to build this AI-powered news crawler, put it into different categories together with Halfspace. Then we had the companies during the process identify some important signals of change on this platform, and then finally do a pastel exercise, so looking at the political aspects, environmental aspects, social aspects, and so on, of what is changing in their external environment. So not just in the industry, but around them in total. And this process, of course, it's always difficult, when you're caught up in your daily business, your daily operations as an SME, you have a lot of things to look at, so then invest some time in a process to really think about your strategy and really think outside of what you normally do. But some of the outcomes that came out of this process was that, I think some habits changed internally. They got a new reflection on what they could use the future for. Some of them started both a robotics project, but also like CSR, sustainability team. They kind of focused more on getting employee buy-in on the strategic direction they had already. And also, the way they talked about the future, for at least for some of them, changed through this process. And two of the companies who took part in this process, one of them was Monta. I don't know if you know it, but they provide like electrical charging solutions for the mobility industry. And what they kind of used it for was to kind of make a scenario planning exercise, as Matt just talked about. So looking at these insights out there and developing different scenarios for how an expansion into the US could look like. And actually, I just very randomly saw, because one of my friends work at Monta, that they just expanded to Miami. And I'm sure they had a lot of thoughts and planning as part of that. At least I hope so, that they could use from this process, which ended, I think, 1.5 years ago. Then also Blumen. And I think I really like this quote from the CEO, COO, that building resilience today is less about robustness and more about adaptability. So you need to be able to be flexible and be able to change as a company and not just be stuck in your ways, which can be very difficult, easier said than done. Most change is uncomfortable, whether it's something you do yourself or whether it's something that happens to your organization personally, right? And then I want to leave you also with a bit of like how-to, because I think that's something that's sometimes missing. How do you actually do this? Not being part of the SME Navigator process, but just going back to your businesses and your daily lives. How do you actually do horizon scanning, looking for trends and signals? So I've developed this short 3-step process. Fairly quick. You can do this in 2 hours together with your colleagues. You can also do it every quarter. Or like there's a lot of potential here, but in its very simple form is that basically first step, you scan for trends. What you can do is that you can use a news site like The Guardian. I really like Zetland a lot, so Zetland is very much my resource for stuff like that. It's the Danish, of course. You can also find these strategic intelligence tools online, like WEF, the World Economic Forum. They have one freely available, where there's a lot of trends and signals already out there that makes this process very much easier. Or you can even ask ChatGPT or your favorite LLM and see what they say. So like, look ahead, what is happening out there, and look around, and try to do a bit of research on the trends and patterns that are out there already. And of course, you need to have some sources. That's important on the ChatGPT side of things. You can't just have it, speculate on whatever. And then the second step is to then collect these trends, right? That takes some curiosity to kind of like, how do we define what a trend is or a signal of change? And for that kind of process, ChatGPT is a great tool again. So this makes it so much easier because before you had to sit down and write everything yourself, but now basically to develop one of these trend cards, you can just prompt an LLM to help write the trend card. You can put in an article or a piece of news or something like that and have it develop trend cards that you can use for this exercise, right? So asking questions like, what is it that we're talking about here? What's the trend about? This is maybe, like the example I found here is about regenerative farming, how to use AI and new technological tools. Very random example. But basically asking like, why is this important for us as a company? We have to maybe give it a bit of context. And then what are the implications? And then that's the interesting part here, because now you maybe have used AI quite a lot you're a human in the loop, but you used AI quite a lot for help. But the third step is the mainly human part. So you try to contextualize. So together with your colleagues, let's say you all find 5 different trends out there. You try to group these together. You can either build like a trend radar or just have like an overview on a Miro board or something like that to create an overview of these, and then have the discussions. What is the impact of this? What are the implications? And what does this mean for our strategy? Because that's where the real magic lies, the real value lies. And doing this, once a year, maybe even more often, even though you are pressured for time, I think can go a long way to build resilience as an organization. So doing that sense-making exercise can be tricky. So the 3 steps: scan for trends, collect them all together, develop trend cards, and then contextualize them, put them together with others. That's what I would recommend you to do. And that's more or less it. I think that's kind of how to build resilience for incoming future signals in a very, very simple manner. But of course, you can also develop like a whole process, but it doesn't have to be that difficult. And AI is a great tool to help you do this. Thank you.